I have spent 6 months implementing enterprise architecture best practices and made our release process slower, more complex, and stress tested our team morale to the breaking point. And believe me, that is exactly what needed to happen. You are probably thinking I'm crazy. 6 months of making things worse. But here is the truth nobody tells you about TOGAF implementation. It is like renovating your house while you are living in it. Everything gets messier before it gets organized. And here's what I walked into the water management agency I worked for. 4 development teams delivering Helm charts and Java artifacts manually every 2 weeks. Platform team collecting everything like postal workers sorting mail by hand in the age of email. No coordination framework. Architecture governance did not exist. Strategic alignment happened by accident. It was like watching a Formula 1 pit crew where everyone argued about which tire to change while the car sits there burning the fuel. But here's what shocked me in week 1. This chaos was not the real problem. The real problem was that everyone thought that this was normal. Like being a room where everyone speaks different languages but pretending they understand each other perfectly. But here's what shocked me the most about this chaos. And maybe you are exactly where I was. You are looking at team coordination that takes longer than actual development work. You are watching manual processes that should have been automated 2 years ago. You are thinking there has to be a better way. Teams operated in isolation like departments in massive corporations where accounting thinks marketing speaks Clinton and marketing thinks accounting uses ancient Roman numerals. Architecture happened accidentally. Coordination became crisis management. Everyone was too busy firefighting to fix the system, creating the fires. The strangest part, I had been reading about TOGAF for 3 years. I had my certification. I understood the theory perfectly, but when I tried to apply it, well, it was like knowing how to drive but never having been actually in a traffic. I completely misunderstood what enterprise architecture actually meant in practice. And here's what nobody prepared me for about framework implementation. And apparently week 2 changed many things. What I discovered about our system complexity made me question everything I thought I knew about architecture. Week 2, the complexity overwhelmed me. 4 teams managing 25 applications. Different storage technologies scattered everywhere like garage sale where everything is mixed together and nothing has a price tag. Business domains crossed team boundaries with no clear ownership. Coordination overhead crushed actual development work. TOGAF exists for exactly this situation, not academic exercise, but survival mechanism. And here's what certification courses do not tell you. TOGAF provides systematic architecture development, but implementing it systematically, well, that is like following a cookbook where the ingredients list says add some salt and the cooking time says until it looks right. The TOGAF architecture development method connects business strategy to technology implementation. At our agency, we had technology and application layers but lacked business data connection. Like having a car with an engine and wheels but not steering wheel. My first architecture document, well, it was 47 pages of perfect TOGAF compliance. Beautiful, but useless and unread. Nobody understood it. Nobody used it. It was the enterprise architecture equivalent of writing a user manual for a toaster that requires a PhD to operate. This is when I learned frameworks are not about documents. But here's what almost broke me completely. Archimate became my visualization solution, but not for the reasons you will think. 3-layered model, enterprise architectures, business, application, and technology, like a 3-layer cake where each layer actually needs to support the another one, instead of just looking pretty. You know what I discovered after 3 weeks of perfect Archimate diagrams? Nobody cared about my beautiful models. It was like creating the most detailed map of a city where everyone prefers to ask for directions. I almost quit the project. I'm sitting in my car after a stakeholder meeting thinking I have got enterprise architecture certification, 10 years of experience, and I cannot get 4 teams to coordinate releases. I felt like conductor trying to direct an orchestra where half of the musicians plays jazz, the other half plays classical, and nobody reads the sheet music. The breakthrough came when I stopped trying to implement TOGAF correctly and started asking different questions, like switching from how do I follow the recipe to how do I actually feed those people. Maybe you have been there, perfect framework knowledge, but struggling with messy organizational reality. And here's what changes everything about my approach. Three weeks in, the leadership drops a bomb that changed everything. 3 weeks in, and leadership asked the transformation question. Yanis, we want continuous deployment. We want team autonomy. We want DevOps transformation. Create strategic vision for this change. I was like being asked to design a highway system while everyone is still arguing about whether cars are better than horses. This is TOGAF Phase A in practice, architecture vision. Not creating perfect technical specifications, but translation documents that connect business strategy to actual architectural direction. And here's what I learned about strategic architecture documents. They are not technical specifications. They are translation documents. Business strategy translates into the architectural directions. Technical capabilities translate into business value. Think of it as being a translator at the United Nations. Except instead of languages, everyone speaks different version of urgent business requirements. The vision document is not about what you want to build. It is about what pain you are going to stop. My systematic approach included current state analysis. 4 teams had limited autonomy. Platform team bottlenecked bi-weekly releases like being the only cashier at grocery store during rush hours. Manual coordination processes dominated. Self-service capabilities were minimal. Target state vision defined success. Autonomous teams gained end-to-end responsibility. Self-service deployment capabilities eliminated bottlenecks, like turning that single cashier scenario into a modern self-checkout system where people can actually get things done. But I was not prepared for what happened when we started implementing this strategy. But then everything went wrong in the worst possible way. One incident raised the stakes completely. During the manual deployment, miscommunication between teams caused hours-long outage. Manual coordination was failing at scale, like trying to coordinate a flash mob through smoke signals. But here's what terrified me more than the incident. After the post-mortem, teams wanted to add more manual checks, more coordination meetings, more approval processes. It was like responding to a traffic accident by adding more stop signals instead of fixing the broken traffic light. I'm standing in the meeting thinking, if I push for architecture transformation now and something goes wrong, my career at this agency is over. I felt like being a surgeon suggesting a new procedure while the patient is already on the operating table. The risk trade-offs became explicit and personal. We removed coordination bottlenecks but accepted cultural transformation requirements. We gained deployment speed but accepted increased team responsibility. And I accepted that if this framework implementation failed, I would have failed at my architect role. You are probably thinking this sounds familiar. Maybe. The moment when organization changes become personal career risks. That is when I discovered something about TOGAF that adjusted my approach to architecture levels. This is when I discovered something about TOGAF that nobody talked me about before. Everything interconnected simultaneously. Enterprise decisions affected application design. Technology constraints shaped application possibilities. Strategic governance influenced team operations. It was like trying to tune a guitar where adjusting one string changes the tension on all the others. TOGAF architecture levels became practical necessity, not theoretical concept. This was phase B and C combined, business and information systems architecture, not as a separate workshops, but as one systematic conversation about who owns what business capability and how applications support them. And here's what I finally understood. Architecture levels are not organization chart boxes. They are decision-making boundaries, like having different rules for city planning, neighborhood, zoning, and individual house designs. Enterprise level established strategic governance, the principles that prevented scope creep. Teams own complete business capability end to end. This blocked requests for cross-team features sharing that would create coordination overhead, like saying each restaurant owns their complete menu instead of having one kitchen try to serve sushi, pizza, and tacos. Application level managed software portfolio coordination. 25 applications across 4 teams required domain-driven boundaries. Each team owns specific business domain, like having specialized medical practices instead of one doctor trying to be a brain surgeon, cardiologist, and dentist simultaneously. But getting teams to accept ownership, well, this is where the real battle happened. But getting teams to accept ownership, right? This is where the real battle started. Ownership enforcement became systematic, but not without conflict. Team B maintained API X. Changes required version contract and 2-team review process, like establishing a property line in a neighborhood where everyone has been using their neighbor's driveway for years. The first time we enforced this policy, well, Team B's lead told me, "You are making our job harder, not easier." This is not the architecture, it is bureaucracy. It felt like being a traffic cop in a town where everyone is used to driving whenever they wanted. Technology 11 provided platform services enabling independence. The exact capabilities that unlocked autonomy, namespace Helm chart publishing with automated policy checks. Teams deployed independently while maintaining enterprise security standards. Maybe you have hit this wall. Perfect technical solution. Human resistance reality. Multi-team architecture required service coordination, but it also required cultural change. Enterprise services enable application service with consume technology service. Clear interfaces exist between levels, if people accept them. But here's what saved the transformation when half the team wanted to quit the new approach. 6 months in, I learned the most painful truth about framework implementation. 6 months into transformation, we systematically applied TOGAF phases and systematically hit unexpected roadblocks, like following GPS directions that do not account for construction zones. Phase A, architecture vision, living document updated as understanding evolves. Regular stakeholder reviews, maintain business alignment when stakeholders showed up, like trying to plan a group vacation where half the people change their mind about the destination every week. Phase B, business architecture. Team domain definitions, established responsibility boundaries, business processes spanning multiple teams received clean ownership. Information flow between domains followed defined patterns on paper. Getting them to work in practice was like teaching cats to march in a formation. Phase C. Phase C, information systems architecture. Application portfolio organized by team ownership. Data architecture separated shared information from team-specific data. API design standards enabled independence while maintaining interoperability eventually. You want to know what TOGAF documentation does not tell you? Each phase takes twice as long as planned and requires 3 times as many stakeholder conversations. Phase D, technology architecture. Platform services supported team autonomy. Container orchestration enabled self-service deployment. Think of it as building a reality good kitchen where everyone can cook, but they still need to follow food safety rules. But phase E is where everything either works or falls apart. So phase E, where everything either works or destroys your career. Phase E, opportunities and solutions. Migration planning moved from current to target states. Pilot project. Team A deployed independently for 30 days with SLO met. Platform only intervened in policy violations, like teaching a teenager to drive and then letting them take the family car to the grocery store. Week 2 of the pilot, I'm getting called at 9 p.m. because Team A's deployment failed and they could not figure out the new self-service process. I'm thinking, this autonomous team sync is not working. It felt like being a parent whose kid calls from college taking how to do laundry. But here's what happened in week 3. Team A figured it out. Week 4, they were helping Team B figure it out. By week C, both teams were deploying more frequently than before without platform team intervention. TOGAF phases provided natural project structure. Each phase built on previous work. Each phase delivered independent value. Progress became measurable for stakeholders. You probably know this feeling. The moment when framework stops being theory and starts being reality, like when programming concepts finally click and you stop copying code and start writing it. This is when we discovered the real result of systematic architecture transformation. "12 months later. The result surprised everyone, including me. 12 months later, transformation success became measurable, but not perfect. Lead time from 14 days to same-day deployment. Deployment frequency, bi-weekly releases became daily on-demand deployments. Change failure rate. Manual coordination errors dropped significantly. Self-service coverage, 85% of service deployed without platform team intervention. Framework lessons became practical insights through pain and persistence. First lesson, Frameworks adapt to constraints. We applied TOGAFs selectively because pure implementation would have failed spectacularly. Organizational culture influenced every adaptation, like cooking from a recipe when half your ingredients are different. You improve or you starve. Second lesson. Stakeholder engagement determines success more than technical correctness. Best frameworks fail without buy-in. Architecture governance works only when teams accept principles because they see personal benefit. If you read the TOGAF book, you might expect workshops, templates, and perfect traceability. In reality, we used maybe 20% of the framework very selectively, and that was enough to change how 4 teams and platform team work together. You are probably thinking, this sounds like your organization. And here's what the most important lesson nobody tells you about frameworks. Lesson 3. Systems perspective connects everything, including politics. Our approach aligned with modern thinking. Platform as product model enabled stream-aligned teams. Platform teams provided capabilities, not control bottlenecks when leadership supports the model. Your mileage may vary significantly. Every organization has different culture and constraints. Frameworks provide structure, not guaranteed outcome. Like having a good recipe, the ingredients and cooking skills still matter. What worked at the water management agency? Systematic approach to complexity. Clear documentation enabling alignment. Service-oriented thinking at all levels. And honestly, lucky timing with supportive leadership. Sometimes success is skill, sometimes it's timing, but mostly it's both. Are you managing team coordination issues, lacking strategic alignment, struggling with stakeholder communication? Those patterns repeat across organizations, but solutions do not copy-paste like Stack Overflow answers. Frameworks exist as practical tools for managing complexity. TOGAF provides systematic development approach when adapted in your specific organizational reality. Like having a good textbook that you actually know how to use. I'm Yanis, sharing experience from national scale challenge. Your situation is different. Your stakeholders have unique needs. But underlying complexity patterns remain similar. Frameworks help when applied thoughtfully and persistently. You do not need perfect TOGAF implementation. You need systematic approach to coordinational chaos. You are probably already thinking architecturally, you just need framework to make it visible. Comment with one cross-team interface you own and whether it has documented contracts. I will share a simple template and I want to know what you are actually dealing with. No theoretical examples, real messy solutions only.